everyone, it's Sharona from Pay or Wait, and today I'm going to be reviewing Wonder Woman 1984, which will launch simultaneously in both theaters and on HBO Max on Christmas Day. The film is directed by Patty Jenkins and it stars Gal Gadot, Chris Pine, Kristen Wiig, Pedro Pascal. It is a lot of people in this movie, but this time around, we fast forward to the 1980s as Wonder Woman's next big screen adventure finds her facing two all new foes, Max Lord and the Cheetah. So for those of you who are new to my channel, welcome, hello, so glad you came, I hope you stay. I tell you what I enjoyed about the film, what I didn't like about the film. It isn't worth your time watching on Christmas Day on HBO Max or theaters, whichever you decide, because that's your business. So if you guys are wondering, do I normally have long hair like this? No, but I wanted to pay homage to, you have those siblings that you don't talk about. And it seems that Diana has a sibling that she doesn't talk about very much. And I hope that in 2021 or whenever we get the next Wonder Woman, that we're going to talk about her sister Nubia. And if you guys don't know about her, ask about her, do a little bit of research. So I'm paying homage to Nubia right now for this Wonder Woman 1984 video. But going into what I enjoyed about Wonder Woman, I have to say that the first 10 minutes of this film, when I say that they set that bar high, they set the bar high. It has one of the best opening sequences that I've ever seen in a film. And I know that Sharona, you're saying a lot, you're really hyping this up, but I am telling you, the opening sequence of Wonder Woman 1984 was so fantastic that for me, I don't even know that anything else that happened in the film was able to match the energy that this opening sequence gave. I'm not gonna tell you guys what it's about. Just know when you start watching, you're gonna be like, you know what, Sharona, you were absolutely right. Why did we ever doubt you? Why did we think that you were hyping us up? You're going to believe me. But I think that they really set the bar high for the rest of this film. And maybe at times that I felt that we never was able to reach that level of intensity again. But I have to say that the reason why I do enjoy this film so much, it really does rely on Gal Gadot as Diana Prince. She's a perfect Wonder Woman to me in every way. There is a rare level of humanity that she brings to her character. She brings this sense of passion and hope. And it makes me feel like, can I be a good person like Diana Prince? Can the world be good? Because if like what she is giving me, it is inspiring me. And I really want to give kudos to Gal Gadot because, they're superhero characters that I like, these comic book characters, but I don't think that anyone really matches the human aspect that Gal Gadot brings to Diana Prince on screen. And I would have to say that she continues to be the heart of the film just as she was in the first Wonder Woman. And she's really the reason that I wanted to keep watching. I wanted to keep going, even though I didn't feel that the intensity of where we started out at the beginning of the film necessarily matched what we saw over the course of the 2.5-hour runtime. But I will also have to say that I was pleasantly surprised. Now, whenever they announced that Chris Pine was going to be in Wonder Woman 1984, I said, hold up, like, spoiler alert if you haven't seen the first Wonder Woman, and if you haven't, you shouldn't be watching this anyway. But when they said that Steve Trevor, he was coming back as Steve Trevor, I said, Steve, you did. Like, what are we talking about? But I thought it was going to be like this fish out of water. He's thrusting into this new decade of the 80s. But I really enjoyed Chris Pine as Steve Trevor in this film. And I think it really adds to the overall message of, what sacrifices do we have to make to maintain our humanity, right? And especially as we get into these comic book characters, these heroes, how much they have to sacrifice in order to save the world as a whole. And I think as we explore that relationship between Diana and Steve in this film, I think it's very much needed. And I just think that they do it so well. They don't make it funny. They could have did a whole thing of him trying to get used to everything in the 80s, and they do a fun, quick montage of that. But I think that it truly sticks to the love that Steve and Diana has. And I think that's just something for me that really helped elevate not only the film, but also to the message that the film gives the audience as a whole. And that's what truly worked for me. Now, also, too, can we talk about the fashion? Because, we're in the 80s. It was a very, they had like their own little sense of fashion. I'm not going to show any hate to the 80s. But I have to say, I want to give props to the costume designer for this film. I love the costumes. It's so great. From the suits, from the outfit, the casual outfits to where we see Diana, you see in the in one of the previews where we see her going to this gala. I just thought that everyone looked fantastic. I love Kristen Wiig, even her as Barbara, the cheetah. I loved her outfits, even the workout gear that we get. Now, if there was nothing else happening in the 80s, they were slaying on some 1980s workout gear. I don't think anyone can come close to what they were doing in the 80s because they were slaying it in this film. I just thought it looked great. It has that feel that transported you back into the 80s. Even some musical nods as well. I thought that there would be a little bit more than what it was, but I really love the vibe of the 80s. I think that it was a great choice to take it back to this decade. But also, too, I do want to give kudos to the villains of the film, as we get into Pedro Pascal as Maxwell Lord, and also to Kristen Wiig as Barbara Minerva, even though they are also going to go into my cons for the film. But I do want to say, for those of you who are worried that Kristen Wiig would bring a little bit too much humor to this role, I actually like what she did as Barbara. I think that her performance was very well balanced. And even though I have issues with the villains in this film, it has nothing to do with the performances of Kristen Wiig and also to Pedro Pascal, who I really want to see him in an 80s film. He was giving me like American Psycho, but not too much of a sociopath, but I was totally here for it at the same time. There's nothing that Pedro Pascal can't do. And I think that they both do a very great time of owning the screen, especially in scenes with Diana, but also too, I love the character arcs that their characters actually do go through as we pertain into our message of not giving up, of still having hope for humanity, hope for this world. And that's really what I love about the film. Is there's anything that you don't take away from Wonder Woman, if you love it or if you hate it, it has to be the message. You know, in a time where, you know, we've kind of given up hope, right? And we've really hit an all-time low. We've been in the house for almost a year at this point. And I think after watching the film, it was an uplifting film. It made you believe that we can get back to where we were, that we can still have faith in the people in this world, that we can have faith in our government, that we can have faith that, you know, we can turn over a new and bright leaf. And I think that out of everything, that is what truly stuck with me for Wonder Woman 1984. It's the heart and the message of the film. Now, even though I have a lot of things that I did enjoy about this film, and I do think that, I will say I do love kind of some of the upgrades that Diana gets. I love the world building that Patty has brought to us. They do expand it a lot more. It's a lot bigger. And there were some very fun moments from a production design. There's a fun scene that happens between Diana and Steve that I'm not going to spoil for you guys, but it did look beautiful. Like, it was just fun to watch. I just felt like I was just living my best life. The colors just make you happy while you're watching the film. I love how her costume looks in this film as well. But even though I have a lot, because I'm starting to ramble, y'all, let me get to the things that I did not like so much about Wonder Woman 1984. If I'm going to be honest with you guys, from a villain standpoint, I really need DC, and we can just stick to Wonder Woman without throwing shade. We got to fix these villains. I don't think, for those of you who are invested in the comic books, even though this is Barbara Minerva, this is necessarily, it's not really any of the origin stories that we see in the comic books for Cheetah, who is like one of Diana's like her biggest arch enemy, but also too a friend that she feels that she can save, right? And so even though they kind of pick from different portions of Cheetah, it's not the Cheetah that I necessarily have known from the comic books. And when we get into the plot of the movie, I think it's, from a plot standpoint, I don't like the plot of the film. I don't like how all of these things happen to these characters, how Cheetah comes to be. And I never felt like the villains really raised the stakes. I never felt like Diana could never defeat Cheetah or Max Lord. It was just a matter of time. And in a villain, you want to feel as though, hey, like, they might be able to win. Like, I don't know if Diana is going to be able to succeed this time in defeating them. And I never once felt that. But I don't want to put that on Pedro. I don't want to put that on Kristen, because I think they do a fantastic job of what is given to them. But I just think that the villains are becoming more and more increasingly weak. And also too, because we have two villains in this film, I feel like it kind of detracted from the film as a whole. It made it a little bit too long, because I felt as though they should have chose one or another. because I just don't think they do a very great job of necessarily fleshing these villains out. I think they have great character growth from where we see them in the beginning to the end as they really learn their lesson. But I think also too, I want to be scared of my villain. I want to feel like the villain have risen the stakes so high that I don't know if our hero or our heroine in this situation is going to be able to save the world. And I never felt that. Also, too, from an action standpoint, while I love the message, I love the humanity that Gal brings to Diana and how that really elevates the emotional level of these films, I still want to see action. There wasn't enough action in this film. I counted it from the first time that we see Wonder Woman going into the next time that we see her in a big action sequence, over an hour and 10 minutes had transpired. And I was just like, this movie is 2.5 hours. And you mean to tell me it took another hour and 10 minutes for us to get to another action sequence? And I felt as though it just wasn't enough of that. Like I said, even though there are some cool moments that happen with Diana as Wonder Woman, there's just not enough action for me. And even as we get into our third act of the film, it felt lacking because it still wasn't enough of that battle. I like how Cheetah looks. I know some people might say that they didn't like the CGI for Cheetah. I thought that she looked fine, but I just felt like it took too long to get to this Cheetah and Wonder Woman climax. And it really let me down at the end of the day. And also too, just overall, I think you don't have to sacrifice this message in order to give the audience action, in order to take the audience on this adventure. But I think that it's very important that you be able to balance the two. So if you guys are asking the question that I know you're going to inevitably ask me, is Wonder Woman 1984 better than its predecessor? No, I think for me, I personally still prefer the first Wonder Woman in comparison to this one. I do think that because of the journey that Diana goes on in Wonder Woman 1984, I think they have set her on a great trajectory as we get into a sequel, to Wonder Woman 1984. But I just think for me that there's a lot of things that they're going to need to fix. They're going to have to do a better job with villains. They're going to have to give us more action, especially when you have a 2.5 hour runtime. But what I would tell you guys to do with you and your time on Christmas Day, I still had fun watching Wonder Woman, even though I did have issues with the film. Overall, the message for me is something that I needed. And with Gal Gadot's performance as Wonder Woman, she continues to make you invested into this character, but also to invest it into this franchise. And I think with a couple of more tweaks, Diana Prince will be unstoppable, you guys. So thank you for watching my Wonder Woman 1984 review. As always, my name is Sharona from Pay Your Weights, and if you like what you saw today, make sure you hit the like button, hit subscribe, share this video with your friends, and make sure you hit that notification bell. And I love you guys 3000. And until I see you again.